Have you driven past a motorcycle dealership recently that used to be open and is now dark? The sign's still there? The lot still paved? Maybe a few scuff marks where the display bikes used to sit. And you thought, what happened to the motorcycles that were in there? That is not a small question. Right now, across the United States, over 120 motorcycle dealerships that were open 18 months ago are permanently closed. And at the moment each one of those doors shut for the last time, there were motorcycles inside. Brand new motorcycles. Never titled. Never registered. Never ridden by a paying customer. Some of them had been sitting in that showroom for over 500 days, accumulating interest that nobody was paying anymore. What happens to those bikes is one of the most misunderstood stories in the motorcycle industry. And the answer involves floor plan lenders, bankruptcy trustees, liquidation auctions, manufacturer repurchase programs, and a specific chain of events that the industry does not explain, because explaining it clearly would force them to admit things they would prefer you not understand. I am going to explain it clearly. Every step, every entity involved, every decision that gets made between the moment the dealer locks the door and the moment that bike ends up somewhere, on someone's lot, at an auction, or on your street. And by the end of this video, you will understand something that almost no one outside the industry knows. A closed dealership is one of the best opportunities a motorcycle buyer has seen in 15 years, if you know where the bikes go and how to get there first. Let me give you the numbers so you understand the magnitude of this. Harley-Davidson sold 344,000 motorcycles worldwide at its peak in 2006. In 2024, that number was 151,000. Not a slowdown, not a dip. A 56% collapse in unit sales over 18 years from the most famous motorcycle brand in the world. The Harley-Davidson Dealer Alliance, the organization that represents the dealers who actually sell the bikes, sent a letter to Harley Corporate in late 2025 with a single request: stop shipping us motorcycles. The exact words in the letter were, "We cannot sell what we have." Approximately 80,000 Harley-Davidson motorcycles currently sit unsold across America. In showrooms, in overflow lots behind the buildings, in regional warehouses, in off-site storage facilities that the official earnings reports do not include in their numbers. The official corporate figure for Q4 2025 was 32,000 units. Conversations with dealers off the record put the real number at roughly double that. The Motorcycle Industry Council estimates 75,000 to 85,000 when everything is counted. If you line those bikes up end to end, they would stretch from New York City to Cleveland. That is enough motorcycles to give one to every resident of Scranton, Pennsylvania. And Harley is not alone. Motos America, a dealership group running 13 locations across California, Florida, and Oregon, carrying BMW Motorrad, Triumph, Ducati, Royal Enfield, and Vespa, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy on December 31st, 2025. Listed assets between $500,000 and $1 million. Listed liabilities between $10 million and $50 million. Debts, 20 times larger than assets. 13 dealerships. Premium European brands. Gone into bankruptcy on New Year's Eve. The overall motorcycle market in the United States fell 5.3% in 2025. Through the first half of 2025, the industry sold approximately 271,000 new motorcycles, its weakest start in years. Foot traffic at dealerships was down nearly 40% compared to the prior year. Online inquiries had halved. This is the environment in which dealerships are closing. And when they close, the question of what happens to the inventory is not abstract. It is a specific legal and financial process with specific outcomes that are exploitable by a writer who understands how it works. Before you can understand what happens to the bikes when a dealership closes, you need to understand something fundamental about how dealerships actually own their inventory, because it is not what most people assume. The motorcycles on a dealer's showroom floor do not belong to the dealer the way the furniture in your house belongs to you. They belong to the dealer on paper, but they are almost entirely financed. The mechanism is called floor plan financing, and it is the single most important concept in this entire story. Here is how it works. When a new motorcycle arrives at a dealership from the manufacturer, the dealer does not write a check for the full cost of that bike. In the vast majority of cases, effectively all cases, the dealer takes out a short-term loan to pay the manufacturer. That loan is secured against the specific motorcycle as collateral. The lender, which could be a bank, or the manufacturer's own financial arm, or a specialized floor plan company, is effectively the real owner of that bike until it sells and the loan is paid off. The loan has terms. Typically, the first 60 to 90 days carry little or no interest. The manufacturer or lender wants bikes to move and structures the cost accordingly. After that initial period, the interest rate kicks in. And it is not a friendly interest rate. At 8 to 10% interest on a floor plan in the current environment, a dealer holding an $18,000 motorcycle for a full year is paying approximately $1,500 in interest on that single bike. A dealership with 300 bikes on the floor is paying approximately $450,000 per year in floor plan financing costs, before rent, before payroll, before utilities, before a single wrench turns in the service bay. During the COVID boom years of 2020 and 2021, this did not matter. Bikes were selling faster than they arrived. Some dealers reported waiting lists, market adjustments of $5,000 to $20,000 over MSRP. The floor plan interest was a rounding error against the margins they were making. Then the market turned. Post-COVID demand evaporated, interest rates climbed, consumer confidence fell, and gas hit $4 a gallon. Suddenly, dealers were sitting on inventory that was not moving, paying floor plan interest that was compounding, and watching their cash flow collapse. George Gatto, the chairman of the National Powersports Dealer Association's Harley-Davidson Dealer Council, said something in 2025 that you should write down. He said, "I am a dealer, and I hate to admit this, but there are too many dealers for the number of new vehicles being sold today. Margins on new bikes are the worst we have ever seen." That is a man whose entire professional life is invested in dealership success, telling you the business model is broken. When a motorcycle dealership closes, the first call that gets made is not to the customers with service appointments. It is not to the employees, it is to the floor plan lender. Because the floor plan lender has a security interest in every bike on that lot, the moment the dealer stops making payments or files for bankruptcy protection, the lender has the legal right to repossess every unit against which it holds a lien. And unlike consumer repossession, where a repo agent shows up in the night and hooks your bike to a truck, commercial floor plan repossession is a formal process that moves quickly. Here is the sequence that follows a dealership closure, step by step. The floor plan lender is notified, either by the dealer who is throwing in the towel voluntarily, or by a missed payment that triggers default, or by the bankruptcy filing itself. Within days, sometimes hours, the lender dispatches representatives to conduct a physical audit of the lot. Every bike is inventoried against the floor plan records, serial numbers verified, condition documented. The lender needs to know exactly what collateral it is holding. If the dealership has filed for Chapter 11 reorganization, the process is more complicated. The court imposes an automatic stay that prevents creditors, including the floor plan lender, from simply seizing the inventory. The bikes stay on the lot while the reorganization plays out. The lender has to file motions to lift the stay. The dealer's attorneys fight for time. Meanwhile, the bikes sit, the interest compounds, and the collateral, the actual motorcycles, is degrading. Batteries die. Tires flat spot. Fuel gums in the carburetors and injectors. Chrome pits in humid environments. The bikes that were worth $18,000 on the showroom floor are worth $15,000 6 months later, and the clock does not stop. If the dealership has filed for Chapter 7, liquidation, the process moves faster. A bankruptcy trustee is appointed to marshal the assets. The floor plan lender's security interest in the inventory is senior to almost everything else. The trustee and the lender negotiate. In most cases, the lender takes the inventory. Now here is where the path branches into several different outcomes, and each one has implications for you as a buyer. Before I walk you through each path these bikes take, I want to say something directly. The situation I'm describing is the best buyer's market for new motorcycles since 2009. Floor plan pressure is real. Closing dealerships are desperate. And the bikes that move through the process I'm about to describe show up in specific places at specific discounts that most riders never know to look for. The 2026 Motorcycle Buyer's Bible has the complete negotiation playbook for exactly this environment. The specific scripts that work when a dealer is under floor plan pressure, the price anchors that apply to aged inventory, and the pre-purchase inspection checklist for bikes that have been sitting. If you are buying in this market, that document pays for itself on a single purchase. Link is in the description. The first and cleanest outcome for the floor plan lender and for the industry is what is called a manufacturer repurchase. Some manufacturer franchise agreements include provisions that allow the manufacturer to buy back inventory from a closing dealer, either voluntarily as a goodwill measure to help the floor plan lender recover its capital, or in some cases as a contractual obligation. When Harley-Davidson says in its official guidance that it is actively working to reduce dealer inventory, and it did say exactly this in the second quarter 2025, noting it had reduced worldwide dealer inventory from 68,000 units to 49,000 units over the previous year, part of that reduction comes from exactly this mechanism. Harley-Davidson buys back bikes from struggling or closing dealers at a negotiated price, transports them to regional distribution points, and then redistributes them to healthier dealers, or holds them in its own inventory management system. This is the cleanest outcome for everyone involved. The floor plan lender gets its money, the dealer's bankruptcy estate gets a resolved liability, the manufacturer has control over where the bikes go and at what price, no fire sale, no public auction, no embarrassing visibility into how desperate the situation has become. The problem with the manufacturer repurchase path, for you as a buyer, is that you cannot access it. These bikes move through the wholesale channel, back into the authorized dealer network, and are resold at or near original MSRP. The bankruptcy crisis created the opportunity. The manufacturer repurchase program closes it before anyone outside the industry can take advantage. But not all bikes go back to the manufacturer. Not even most of them, because the manufacturer repurchase program only covers current model year inventory. The 1200 Street Glide that has been sitting on a dealer's floor since October 2023, now 18 months old, with depreciation, flat spot tires, and a dead battery, is not going back to the factory. It is going somewhere else. The bikes that do not go back to the manufacturer go to auction. And this is where the story gets genuinely interesting for anyone who's paying attention. There are specialized motorcycle auction houses that process exactly this kind of inventory: closed dealer stock, floor plan repossessions, bankruptcy estate assets. The largest operate nationally. They hold online and in-person events where licensed dealers can bid on individual units or lots of multiple bikes. Here's the critical fact. In most states, consumer participation in these auctions is prohibited or restricted. You cannot show up at a dealer liquidation auction as a private individual and buy a new motorcycle directly. The auction is dealer to dealer. The licensed buyer takes the bike, transports it, puts it in their own inventory, and sells it retail. But the prices at these auctions are not MSRP. They are not even close to MSRP in the current environment. A 2024 Harley-Davidson Road Glide that was originally wholesaled to the closing dealer at $21,000 might sell at auction for $14,000 to $16,000. Because the floor plan lender is not trying to maximize the price, it is trying to recover its capital and close the loan. The goal is speed and cash flow, not optimal pricing. That margin between the auction price and the retail price is where the opportunity lives. For the independent dealer who buys at auction, and potentially for you if you know that dealer exists and can get there before the bike goes into a showroom with a new sticker. I personally think the most underutilized motorcycle buying strategy in 2026 is to find the independent dealers who buy directly from these auctions and make them your first call instead of your last. They paid $14,000 for a bike that shows as $23,000 on the manufacturer's website. Their margin appetite is completely different from a franchise dealer carrying floor plan costs. The third path is the one you are most likely to have seen. The dealer who is closing but has not yet closed. The doors are still open, the lights are still on, the staff is still there, or some version of them, but the sign in the window says everything must go and you know something is wrong. Hideout Harley-Davidson in Joplin, Missouri announced its permanent closure on March 4th, 2025, effective March 31st, 2025. Their Facebook post said they would reduce prices on current inventory through the end of the month. 1 month. Everything must go. New York Harley-Davidson, nearly 30 years in business in one of the most expensive retail markets in the country, closed with deals of up to 75% off in its final days. 75%. That is not a sale. That is a liquidation. The Dudley Perkins dealership in San Francisco, founded in 1914, 110 years of operation, the longest-running family-owned Harley dealership in the country, started by a man who is in the AMA Hall of Fame, closed in 2024, abruptly, with inventory on the floor. When you see a closing dealer offering discounts that deep, understand what is actually happening. The floor plan lender has agreed to accept less than the full loan balance, because accepting less now is better than taking the bikes to auction and accepting even less later. The dealer is passing that reduction on to customers because it is the only mechanism left. Every bike that sells at 40% off is a bike that does not have to go through the auction process, does not cost additional transportation and auction fees, and produces cash that pays down the floor plan loan directly. This is the window most riders never know exists. A closing dealership in its final weeks is offering prices that no healthy dealership can match. The floor plan pressure, the bankruptcy timeline, the desperation to convert inventory to cash before the trustee takes over, all of it produces discounts that the normal market does not produce. The catch is that you have to be there. You have to know the dealer is closing before the inventory is gone. And you have to walk in understanding that the sales staff, some of whom may not even know if they will have a paycheck next week, is not in a position to run normal dealership tactics. The Foursquare worksheet, the financing office tricks, the mandatory add-ons. None of that applies in a closing sale where the manager's only goal is moving units before the door shut. The fourth path is the most formal and the least accessible to ordinary buyers. When a dealership files for Chapter 7 and the trustee takes over, the assets, including the motorcycle inventory, are liquidated through a court-supervised process. The trustee's job is to maximize recovery for the creditors. The floor plan lender is the senior secured creditor for the inventory. The trustee and the floor plan lender negotiate a process which typically involves either a structured dealer liquidation sale at the premises or a transfer of the inventory to an auction house. Court-supervised liquidation sales are technically open to the public in most jurisdictions. They are advertised through bankruptcy court filings, which are public records. Almost nobody outside the industry knows to look at bankruptcy court filings for motorcycle deals. Almost nobody. The bikes that come through this channel sell at prices that reflect the urgency of the situation. The trustee has a fiduciary obligation to the creditors. If a bike sells for $12,000 at a court-supervised liquidation, and the floor plan balance on that bike is $18,000, the trustee has satisfied their obligation. The floor plan lender takes the loss, writes it off, and moves on. Nobody's trying to get you to pay MSRP at a bankruptcy liquidation. The legal system is structuring the sale to recover capital as efficiently as possible. This is where the information asymmetry is most extreme. The buyers who show up at bankruptcy liquidations are dealers and industry insiders who have been watching the court filings. They know the inventory before the public does. They have financing ready. They move fast. If you want to access this channel as a private buyer, you need to monitor your local federal bankruptcy court's PACER system for dealer liquidation filings, or work with an attorney who can alert you when relevant cases are filed. It is not impossible. It requires research that almost no writer does. Here is the practical takeaway from everything I have told you so far. The 2026 motorcycle market has created an inventory situation that is genuinely unprecedented in the modern era. Closing dealers. Court-supervised liquidations. Auction houses full of nearly new bikes at prices that reflect lender desperation rather than consumer demand. This is the market you are navigating right now. The 2026 Motorcycle Buyer's Bible is the document that was built for exactly this moment. The specific price targets for aged inventory. The scripts that work with a closing dealer who needs to move units before the trustee takes over. The pre-purchase inspection checklist for bikes that have been sitting for 300 days, 400 days, 500 days, and have specific degradation patterns that show up reliably. You need to know what flat-spotted tires feel like at speed. You need to know what gummed fuel injectors cost to service. You need to know what the actual discount ceiling is on a bike with 18 months of floor plan interest sitting on it. That information is in the document. Link is in the description. I want to stop the process explanation for a moment and talk about what actually happens to the physical motorcycles that sit through this process, because it matters for you as a buyer. A motorcycle that has been sitting on a dealer's floor for 500 days, and some of the bikes in these closing dealerships have been sitting that long, has specific problems that a bike that left the showroom in 90 days does not have. The battery is dead. Not weak. Dead. 6 months without a maintenance charge will kill a lithium-ion battery permanently in many cases. Lead-acid batteries fare slightly better, but not much. The first cost any buyer of aged inventory incurs is a new battery. The tires have flat spots. A motorcycle tire under the weight of the machine, stationary in the same position for months, develops flat spots, areas of reduced roundness that produce a rhythmic vibration when you first ride the bike. Mild flat spots often work themselves out after a few miles. Severe ones require new tires. A bike that has been sitting in a non-climate controlled storage facility through a southern summer may have compound degradation at the contact point that produces a subtle instability at speed that does not announce itself until you need maximum grip. The fuel system has gum. Modern fuel, particularly ethanol-blended fuel, degrades. The light fractions evaporate. What remains is a varnish that deposits in the fuel injectors, the fuel pump, the fuel lines. A bike that was filled from a pump and left sitting for 18 months may have injectors that require ultrasonic cleaning before they meter fuel correctly. This is not a $50 problem, it is a $200 to $400 problem, depending on the system. The chrome pits in humid environments. Motorcycles stored in lots in Florida, Louisiana, coastal Texas, any environment with significant humidity and salt air show cosmetic degradation that a bike 18 months off the showroom floor should not have. Pitting on chrome surfaces, oxidation on unpainted aluminum, surface rust on exposed steel. None of this makes the bike undrivable. All of it is correctable. But it costs money, and a buyer who does not know to account for it is going to walk into a closing dealership thinking they got a great deal at $3,000 off and walk out with a bike that needs $800 in mechanical attention before it is right. The pre-purchase inspection checklist in the Bible covers every one of these specific items with specific tests you can perform before you write the check. Battery load test, tire condition assessment, fuel system inspection protocol. That information transforms a closing sale from a risk into an opportunity.